Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. Um, Hello, everyone, and welcome to Enneagram, Knowing Our Major Personalities. I'm Adrienne. I'm with Reston Library, and it's my pleasure to introduce Shabnam Curtis, an integral life coach and the leader of our program today.
Thanks, Adrienne, and thanks everyone to be here. I'm very excited that we are going to share our knowledge about Enneagram today. I tried to make it a little bit different than other programs that go through each personality. So you will see that I have it actually like in a different type of categorizing. It's like, what are the fears for all different types? What are the desires for all different types? And the reason is because Enneagram is, like we just talked about, that it is a tool. It's a beautiful tool to help us for self-discovery. And like you mentioned, it's a really helpful tool to enable us to explain our behavior. And at the same time, it's a tool that shows us that whatever behavior, whatever personality traits that we have at the moment, we are bigger than that. We are not just that personality traits. We can grow. And that's the most important part about Enneagram as a personality tool that allows us to see that we can always grow. So that's I'm excited. I'm excited to share it, and I'm happy that people who are attending have knowledge about it. And I look forward to our discussions, of course. If you feel comfortable, you can definitely ask questions during my talk because it's recorded. If not, we can definitely have it at the end. I'm going to share my screen. The computer has been a little bit naughty yesterday and today. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. It is a little slow. Okay.
Good. It's the slideshow.
Okay, perfect. So yes, I am Shabnam Curtis. I'm a life coach. I've been trained as an integral coach, which means when I work with people, we focus on the concern and the area that they want to develop, but at the same time, we don't just stay in that area. We will see what the pattern is, the pattern of behavior is that is causing that, and we start with one area usually in session one, but then we explore that how one behavioral pattern can impact so many different parts of our lives, professional, personal, romantic. It's very amazing. It's really like how we want to see ourselves and how much of reflection are we able to do, and that's self-reflection, how authentic it is. And it's hard sometimes. That's why maybe a coach can help and be there to create that safe environment so we see ourselves in a more in a safer mirror. I want to put it that way. So today we want to talk about the Enneagram and what is Enneagram. So Enneagram, like we talked about, is basically just a personality type theory. It has a long history. Some people think like it came from Sufis, but it's actually Richard Rousseau says that. He has researched, and it's way behind that. Some they can say actually it has like up to 2,500 years of history. Right, like in the modern area, Gurdjieff was the one who really put the Enneagram together based on what I've learned, he learned it from Sufis, and they would say like the personality numbers. But then he, Gurdjieff himself, studied and contemplated on Enneagram and added a lot to it. And then it was continuing by really deep people like Richard Rousseau, Helen Palmer. They really, really amazing people who've been working on it for decades. So what we have here today is a very basically like a good structured data that can help us as a tool to figure out who we are and to allow ourselves to be and to grow. So it's what Enneagram offers is there is no good or bad. What we see, like you might feel like, oh, I'm type 2, I'm a helper, that's a good thing. And then we will see that a type 2 who is a helper also can be harmful if he or she is operating from unhealthy style of life. So we will see that there is no good and bad. There is healthy and unhealthy way of operating. And also we have everything, a little of everything in us, some more, some less, but we definitely can find all of it in us. It is for all different people. It has absolutely no, it's not about gender. It's not about race. It's not about, old, young. It's very inclusive. And there are 9 types defined in Enneagram. The reason that Enneagram is a round circle is there are like, especially Richard Russo talks about the influence from why do I not remember the name? It escaped from my mind. Mandalas. It's very influenced from Mandalas, and Mandalas are basically like all different representation of the wholeness of life. And that's why Enneagram has everything in it, right? Or we have everything in us. Those lines that you see, these are like showing the wings based on what the study is showing that people can have, like the helper, it can be going to unhealthy 8 if she's stressed, and can go to healthy 4 if she's actually under like normal situations or even flourishing situations. So it's it can get very complicated. Today we are scratching the surface of kind of like these 9 personalities and all. Actually, I said 18, but it's like 27 different sub-personalities. We are not going to talk about it, but it's a very dynamic tool. I'm just going to go over each personality very quickly, and then you'll see how I have them all together with different category structure. So the reformer is basically the person who, type 1, the reformer is the personality type that when I'm actually trying to get something done, but I always feel like this is not good enough. No, I have to actually add more to it. Is it done? Let's say I wrote a book and I can never finish editing. That's in the unhealthy spectrum part of it. But if I actually if I'm operating from the healthy spectrum, I can create a very quality product because I'm very detail oriented. I'm very curious about all different things that go together, and I can see the patterns very in a very detailed way that allows me to have a good perspective and have a quality product out there. So probably a lot of designers of all various types of life can be in this. category, but not necessarily not everybody is designer, designer in so many different ways. I'm just giving little examples. The helper is the one who, if it's unhealthy, the helper can actually become an intruder, because he or she can create some necessity for you to need her. Basically, I can use that as manipulation. I can come help you in order to make you feel you need me, therefore you love me. So the very important thing for helper is to be loved. But if it's from a healthy part of the spectrum, a helper can be a person who can actually love other people and help other people unconditionally. So you see, everyone has a spectrum, and we can operate from all different parts of the spectrum all the time. Growth doesn't mean that we become better and that's it. We always step forward, 3 steps forward, maybe 1 or 2 steps backward. Life is messy, growth is messy, and there is always a spectrum, and we are walking in it. That wholeness of Enneagram is the wholeness of us. We want to accept ourselves for who we are, and we want to accept that it's okay if we are not perfect, to accept the imperfect part of us. The achiever is the one who, if it's unhealthy, wants to have the Gucci bag, the image outside. Not having a Gucci bag is not bad, but unless you don't have dinner to eat, but you want to borrow money to buy a Gucci bag, and that becomes unhealthy because you just want to have an image. You want to go get 2 different PhDs because you want to have the image. It's more important for the unhealthy achiever what image people have of that person. What am I showing? Who do they see? Even if I don't care about that PhD that I got, or I don't really like carrying a bag with me. But in a healthy way, an achiever can be actually an accomplished person who likes to go and get things done, and also become a model for everybody else if it's authentic. If it's authentic, I just want to, I want to be a life coach, and I want to study, and I want to study hard, and I do like to get this certificate and that certificate because it's enriching my knowledge. It's not because I necessarily want to write a resume. I do, but it's not only to impress people. It's because I want to use that knowledge in my work, in my professional job. An individualist is the person who, in an unhealthy way, when you are with an individualist with very strong emotions, you can happen to walk on the eggshell, not knowing exactly what you want to say, that person doesn't get hurt, and the person can get hurt quickly. But in a healthy way, the individualist can have all those sensations, very strong emotions, but she or he can use it in order to really make connection with other people, to see her where she is, to bring it out and transform it to a beautiful piece of art, to a beautiful creative thing. Usually a lot of artists can fall under the individualist, like their dominant part can fall under the individualist, because they have all these powerful emotions, they sense it, but they can also transform it to a very beautiful creative piece of, you name it, art or anything else. The investigator is the one who, as unhealthy, want to kind of like feel that I want to investigate more. I'm not sure if this is I know enough to make decision. I'm not sure if I can. I have enough information to trust this person. It's like constantly investigating more, and it can make us to put us in a way, in a situation that we don't want to be close to people. We have fear of intimacy, which 4 also can, in an unhealthy way, can have it, the fear of closeness. But in a healthy way, the investigator can become, you name it, go to the moon, or create, the internet, or any of these huge inventions that we have. And I'm not saying they are good or bad. That's also another discussion. But the investigator, in a healthy way, can bring his or her investigation together and create a new pattern, because they can see how data can come. They have they're usually visionaries. They can have an image. They can foresee the image. So that's how they can actually contribute to the society in a very different way. The loyalist is the one who, if it's unhealthy, becomes very dependent on other people, constantly wants the external approval without having any internal approval. That concern of like, is everybody supporting me? They can actually test other people whether to support them or not in an unhealthy way. But if it's a healthy way, they like to have other support, but they're also, in reciprocation, they're also very loyal to that support. They also provide that safety mutually. So it can become a very deep connection when we are operating from our healthy part of loyalist. The enthusiast, it can be unhealthy as an becomes escapism, because we can try to make ourselves busy in order to escape from our pain. But if it's healthy, we can also make ourselves busy with happiness. They're usually very outgoing, very usually extroverts, and I say usually because it really doesn't. It can be an enthusiast with a different wing. That doesn't make that person extrovert, but overall, generally, they can be extroverted, outgoing, and they can enter in the room and create a different environment and like uplift everything, and oh no, let's get out, let's go out, let's do this, let's do that. They can like create a lot of positive dynamic when they are around. The challenger is the force of life. They can be unhealthy and use the force to control people, to avoid their own vulnerability in order to just defend themselves with harsh, aggressive behavior. Or they can use the force of life to stand up for others, to support others, to control, to empower others with that force of life that they have. So it's depends on where we are, and we will talk about healthy and unhealthy in a minute. And the peacemaker, sitting on the top of the circle, the peacemaker is the one that if it's unhealthy, they want to avoid any conflict. So in order to do that in an unhealthy way, they can become passive aggressive. We can become, I want to keep saying we because it's really not they. It's all me, it's all you, it's all of us. We can become very, very passive, not even passive aggressive, very passive and not contribute to anything just to avoid conflict. But if we are on our healthy part of the spectrum, then we can actually become good helpers for like conflict resolution, which we will talk about it next week, next Friday. They can become people who actually can bring people together, can make peace with dignity and not ignoring themselves. It's the intention of it is not just to avoid conflict. In a healthy level, we can actually look at conflict in a very different way and bring some peace to the environment. That's just a very, very, I want to say, shallow definition of each one of the types. I'm glad that a few people have said that they've read the book, and I highly recommend this book, The Wisdom of Enneagram. Am I showing it? The Wisdom of Enneagram, Richard Russo and Ross Hudson. There are other books that are very good, and I will actually add them to the end of the slides. And Adrienne is always kind; she shares the slides with us and with trainings and everything. It's very important to read them and contemplate on each, and even over and over. You know, there are a couple of books that I listen to them and I go back all the time, because that the different situations of life, I find myself in different places, and I'm like, oh, this is how I'm doing it now. This can define what how I'm looking at life now. So it's very important to, and these are just a couple of slides for the main characteristic of each type. I basically just talked about it, so I'm going to skip them. But I highly recommend take this little workshop as the very small step of beginning to understand Enneagram. It's very deep and it's very helpful. Each type of Enneagram of 9 types has also 9 levels of growth. Like I mentioned, we can be in unhealthy part of the spectrum or in the healthy part of the spectrum. What happens, what makes it healthy or unhealthy? There are like 3 different ways of defining between unhealthy, average, and healthy. But what I want to mention here is when we say unhealthy, it doesn't mean that, like I mentioned it, I think, it doesn't mean that I grow to average or I grow from average to healthy and I never go back to unhealthy. There are always fallback. What makes us to operate from unhealthy? Richard Russo and I always forget, Ross Hudson, they basically break it to 2 different parts, which is, one is if we had a childhood that gave us certain messages, we will see it in the next few slides, that taught us to in order to protect ourselves of the difficulty and hardship of the childhood, to behave like that. And then we grow with the behavior doesn't serve us anymore and it becomes unhealthy, but we are very used to it. We don't know even we are very used to it. So one part is we operate from unhealthy part of the spectrum because we have those engraved in us from our childhood hardship. But the other one is, well, we are aware of ourselves, we have enough self-awareness, we are very mindful, but then life happens. Divorce happens, loss of loved ones happen, financial crisis happen in our life, professional crisis happen in our life. Things that can trigger us, can trigger our past and throw us out of the main path. And that's when we need to be the kindest to ourselves, because we need to figure out what happened instead of condemning ourselves that like, oh, I'm just a bad person, or I'm just operating from this unhealthy part of the spectrum. So it can happen to any of us at any moment, depends on the life circumstances and situations. When we are operating from the unhealthy part of the spectrum, we are not very resilient. We are very impulsive. We react instead of response. We don't even think about it. We react based on our unpleasant feelings, whether it's anger, rage, sadness, depression. It can be very painful to be operating from that, emotionally very painful, which impacts our physical health too. But it can be very painful emotionally and physically to be operating from that part of the spectrum. And often we feel like victims, like, oh, look how life is doing it to me. We feel helpless. Victim feels helpless. When we operate from the average part, that's not necessarily unhealthy, but not necessarily flourishing. We are just living our life and surviving. We have the ability to reflect. Now, might not be very deep reflection, self-reflection, but we still can step back one step and see ourselves a little bit. We can listen to others to some extent to see maybe they also have a point, but not very often, not kind of like, we just live our life. We have the ability to kind of like see that we can be compassionate, but it's more like ideas rather than really practicing that real compassion and self-compassion. So when we operate from that average part of the spectrum, we are really just surviving. We are not growing. We don't have a flourishing life. When we are in the healthy range of it, that which is the last 3 levels of growth in Enneagram, each level here has 3 levels of growth. The last 3 level that puts us in the healthy level is we actually feel resilient. When the stress happens, we don't break ourselves. We have enough tools in our toolbox to kind of like see the stress objectively and respond to the stress. When a stress and pressure comes in, especially if it's too much, we have the ability of kind of like staying back for a second and seeing the dynamic of what's happening. We don't immediately take it personally. We will stay curious to see what else is happening, what else is impacting this. It's kind of like we don't lose that sense of belonging to life. When we are a victim, we feel like we don't belong, which is a survival instinct, that feeling of belonging. But when we are healthy and we have the ability to grow and the environment is not with too much pressure on us, or we have healed our childhood wounds to some extent, it's a never-ending process, but then we have more self-belief that I can do it. We have that mindset of like growth mindset that I can get through this. I am resilient enough, or I need to remove myself from this situation because it's not healthy for me. We have the ability of deciding about it. Okay. Is there any questions so far? Okay, we're all good. Enneagram has or divides 9 personality types to 3 different basically category that calls the triad. The ideal way of the triad is when we have balance between our body sensations, our feelings and emotions, and our cognitive ability, the thinking ability. However, of course, when we have dominant personality types, which doesn't happen to everybody, but when there is one or two dominant personality type, there is also an unbalanced version of this triad. So usually the ones like type 8, the challenger one, then 9, the peacemaker, and 1, the reformer, the perfectionist, basically, they are very visceral. A lot of time you see that like they actually get things from their body in a very intuitive way that they can't even explain, but they walk in a group or in a new room and they sense it in their body. It's very strong how they communicate through their body and with their body. It's like things are very visceral to them. But at the same time, if they have a big ego, if they are in that unhealthy part of the spectrum at the moment, they can also carry a lot of rage. They, especially 9 and 1, peacemaker and reformer, they can have a lot of anger towards themselves. Challenger, they can have a lot of anger towards other people. So that's kind of like it's just like the umbrella of it. But then, of course, it can be very different for each person. I just want to emphasize on that because I don't want to define ourselves in one category or one part of the triad, or we are not one category. We are all of it. We are whole. Every one of us is a whole. The feeling, the emotion part is helper, achiever, and individualist. Very strong sensation of their emotions. Like when anger comes up, it's like a lot of anger, and when sadness comes up, it's a lot of sadness. When joy comes up, it's a lot of expressing it is a lot more expressive compared to other people. And it can also end up with a lot of shame if they are not approved by others, if they are not accepted by others, if they are rejected by others. There is a lot of shame. I personally have dealt with shame. I honestly want to say that it's been a few months that I feel, not completely, of course, but I feel free of shame. And it took years of therapy, coaching, studying, working on myself, because shame is just so painful. And I'm not saying rage is also painful. Fear is always painful. But my personal experience, shame is just, and it puts the person usually in a freeze mode or depressive mode. The feeling helpless, the feeling of not being good enough, not being adequate. That is very personal to me. And I'm very grateful that I feel like I can now live many more days of shame-free. It even makes me feel like a deeper breath. And then people with like investigator dominant type, loyalists and enthusiasts, they think a lot. They can have a chatterbox up here that talks to them a lot. It can make them very concerned about things. Everything has to make sense logically. And of course, in a healthy way, they can also think about all different pieces of one event or one thing that is happening. If you travel with a healthy loyalist, you're like, do you happen to have like a filer for my nail? My nail just broke. Of course, yes. Do you or sitting there and feeling like thirsty, and the healthy loyalist is like, I have water, so anyone wants water? They think about all different aspects, all different details of an event. And it's like I said, investigator or loyalist or enthusiast, they have a very good ability of foreseeing or imagining things. But they also have a lot of fear. Like we talked about it, fear of not having everything they want, fear of not being supported, fear of not being fear of being controlled, like no, actually investigator is like fear of not being really like fear of being worthless. That's like a lot of fear that sometimes we carry when we operate from investigator. So this is about the triad, and what we want is really like, we want to sense our body, somatic awareness, we want to have emotional awareness, and we want to have cognitive awareness. We want to use all of them together. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of, work on ourselves in very different ways to stimulate all different ways of being. If we are thinking a lot, we want to stimulate our emotions and our bodily, our somatic ability. If we are all sensing, and if we are always in our body, we definitely want to be able to express our feelings. We want to use the logic more often. So it's like always being mindful of how we are in this triad. And I also want to say that today, it's not like we won't have a lot of practices of it. It's kind of like just talking what Enneagram is. I usually like to add practices and suggestions at the end of the workshop. That's really not what we have today. It's all about what it is, but at the same time, like there is a slide when we talk about the wake-up call. So we can think about like, am I doing it? Can I contemplate? So I want you to, as we go through these few slides, I want you to really find yourself in all different ways here. Where is it? Try to have an authentic self-reflection with yourself without judging yourself. If you feel it's hard, put your hand in your heart. Make sure that you're not judging yourself, because we are human beings. You are not alone. I'm not alone. We all have all of this. And we all have grown, and we all are growing together. So it's a journey. So what are the childhood messages? If you remember, I said, like maybe we had a childhood hardship in childhood that created the behavior pattern that we have now, and we are very used to it, and we think this is life. We don't even realize that no, we can actually change our behavior. We can actually grow, which is one thing that very much a coach can help. If you've worked with a therapist, or if you've had therapeutic practices that allowed you to make sense of your past, then you want to start growing. And that's when you can work with a coach to find out these current patterns and then start changing, creating new habits, basically, creating all these new neuron paths in your body. So the reformer, whenever we have a reformer dominant in our childhood, the message we heard was, it's bad to make a mistake. You shouldn't make a mistake. But is that true? Because making a mistake is the only way to actually learn. There is no other way around it. Mistakes are blessings in life, but we were told that making a mistake is bad, or we were even punished for it. So that also has a spectrum, right? How severe we received this unconscious message. As a helper, we received the message that you need to sacrifice your own needs and always help other people. Your needs aren't important. You always have to give to other people. And that's not the right way. That's not the healthy way, because if we don't fulfill our needs, then we will feel burdened, and we can't even help other people, or there's like a lot of expectations in it when we help constantly other people, because we can't create that reciprocation. That's gone. As an achiever, we were said that what you want is not the right thing. What the society wants of you is the right thing. So if, how many of us wanted to become a poet or an artist, and they said, nope, you have to go to engineering school, law school, or how many people lived like that? How many people were told that if you don't make money, you are not a good person, you are not a valuable person. It's all about value. So and that's exactly what I grew up with. Like a person who can't make enough money to have a good standard life with society, you are not a valuable person. That was with me for a long time, and I'm sure I'm not alone. So that's the subconscious message that I got, and many of us got. The individualist is basically like if you show that you're happy, you're too happy, then other people don't care about you. A lot of people want to emphasize on their sadness or on their unpleasant, or even show them unpleasant feelings, or show themselves as victims to grab the attention of others. And it's because if they were happy in their childhood, it was like, you are too happy, you were you don't deserve to be happy, something around that. As an investigator, the unconscious message was, you shouldn't trust on what you have to always investigate more. You need to know more in order to make a decision. So decision making even becomes hard for people who they've been told or taught that don't ever get comfortable with this life. There is always another shoe to drop. Well, sure, but it's not always, right? There is also a lot of moments of life that moves forward. So it's like when we feel extreme like that. To the loyalist, it was basically like, I want to say that there are many men and women, but there are many women that can actually resonate with this, that you are a woman, you can't do it. You always need support. It's like a childhood message, and sadly to a lot of men too, but basically it's like and it can be even like helicopter parenting too, too much support, not allowing the child to have any challenge, or if there is any challenge, you want to just grab the child to kind of like give the message that if I'm not here, you cannot do it. And then the challenger is the one who always needed to defend herself or himself. We got the message that basically I can't trust other people. I always have to be careful about myself. I think I missed enthusiast. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it and I'm cheating. So so yeah, let me just finish the challenger, that you can't trust you can't trust others, so keep it to yourself. Don't show any vulnerability. If you show any vulnerability, people take advantage of you. People think you are weak. Sadly, that's the message we got. As an enthusiast, the message was like the reverse message of the loyalist, like, you should be too independent. You should not depend on anybody. And then for the enthusiasts, in an unhealthy way, when they got the message in the childhood, it becomes very difficult to ask for help. It becomes very difficult to ask for other people's support. And they put it all on themselves, and then they feel burdened. And the peacemaker, the subconscious message was kind of like, your vote, your opinion doesn't matter. So stay quiet, don't say anything, and don't try to assert yourself, because if you say your opinion, you're gonna get punished for it. And that's the way that we learn. So if I say anything, it has consequences. So I'm not gonna say anything. I'm always going to compromise for other people. And that all puts us in a very unbalanced way. But what are the basic desires of each one of these categories? What is it that they want? What is it that we want? As a reformer, we want to have that integrity. We want to have that beautiful, perfect picture that we can offer. You know, like I have a feeling that my husband falls under one. And if he cooks or if he creates something in the house, it's like beautiful. He can imagine it, and he's a good designer. He also has like a lot of detail oriented practices, and he's also a perfectionist, so he wants to make sure that it's all like looking good, all of it is together. And I always feel like, you know, I'm the achiever. I want to finish it. I want to just get it done, and I make mistakes, and it doesn't look as good as when he does it. So that's why the teamwork is good, right? Because we can always complement each other. But that's the basic desire of a person who has a dominant reformer type. The helper wants to be loved. You ask many people, it's so important for them to be loved that they sacrifice everything else, and they eventually also don't get the love, but it's very important. So in an authentic way, I just want to be loved. But how do I do it in a healthy way? That's the most important part. The achiever wants to be a valuable person, a valuable citizen. That's why she or he wants to achieve, accomplish. And then we think that's the way to be valuable. But it's more important to be us, you know, and be there for each other. That's like calculating our value becomes very wrong, because we can't calculate our values. But the achiever honestly wants to be valuable. That's why all we do as achievers. As individuals, we want to be ourselves. We want to have the right to be ourselves. If I want to have my hair pink, or if I want to have piercing, or if I want to say something, I want to be myself, and I want not to be rejected. But that also can go to the other side, that like, then I can also become very self-indulgent with my sad feelings that make people to walk on the eggshell with me. But all I do is just to feel myself. So you see, the desires are by itself not bad, but it's just like where we operate from and how we manifest our desires. They can become negative desires, but by itself, they are not really bad. The investigator too really likes competition. It's like, it can be very healthy competition. It can be because they really like to be to learn some skills very special, to investigate and go to details. A lot of people that go to PhDs are investigators. They really like to dig down very deep in one area and become a specialist in that area. Now, it doesn't have to be education. It can be a person who doesn't have higher education, but has this trait that in one, you see people who are stamp collectors or CD collectors or different types of antique collectors. These people are really like enjoying to have that special skill. The loyalist wants to be the secure person. It's just like the biggest important thing is I want to make sure that I'm secure. Now, in a worse way, you can find rice and cans for another 10 years in their pantries. or you can actually see them very objectively dealing with reality of life and create security for themselves and for others in a very healthy way. The enthusiast wants to be happy. Now, happy is good, but as long as we don't want to escape from pain. But the intention is good. We just want to be happy as enthusiasts. The challenger wants to protect themselves. They don't want to have other people control them. So it's like to protect oneself is a very, very beautiful desire. And the peacemaker wants to be at peace. If we avoid conflict, it becomes unhealthy. If we learn how to deal with conflict and create peace, that's where we do healthy. But look at all these desires. Don't we have them all? We have them all. We want them all. I have all of those desires. You have all of those desires. Maybe one more than another one, or a couple of them is stronger than other ones. But as a whole, we want all of them. We have them all. Let me look at the clock to see. It's 3:00. Okay. I want to make sure that we have time for Q&A. And what are the basic fears? So the reformer, the reformer biggest fear is what if I make a mistake and I look corrupt? What if I look defective? The helper feel like, what if I have an image that I'm unworthy of love and no one loves me? The achiever's fear. And now you can, as part of the self-reflection, if you've taken any notes from the previous slide, from the desires, see if it goes with any of this. How do they connect to each other? Because they're all interconnected. In order to get to fulfill our desire, how are we dealing with the fears that we have to basically operate from the healthy or unhealthy part of the spectrum? The achiever's fear is having a bad image, that like people don't see the achiever as a successful person in life and in the society. The individualist is very concerned about, what if people don't see me as a whole person, as a significant person? What if people don't see my uniqueness? That's why they constantly emphasize on their uniqueness. In a healthy way, it can become a piece of art. In an unhealthy way, it can be that you walk on the eggshell around them. Investigators, they are very concerned of being incapable. They want to know, to do, especially if you see it in older people, that comes up a lot, because they start losing some of the capabilities that they had at a certain age. And that becomes a very important thing, that like, I want to make sure that I do it myself, I'm capable, so that I'm not useless. That's the biggest concern. The loyalist, of course, wants to always make sure that they are secure. They have support. They are safe. The enthusiast wants to make sure that she or he does anything in their power not to be trapped in pain. I want to be happy, right? The challenger is the one who always wants to make sure that other people don't control her or him. Other people don't take advantage or dominate them. And the peacemaker, like the message that we heard in our perhaps the message that we heard in our childhood, that if you assert yourself, it will have consequences for you. The peacemaker's fear is, what if I lose the relationship if I assert myself? What if I lose a piece of the relationship if I assert myself? So they don't assert themselves for the fear of losing connection with other people. And this is the part that I hope can be taken as a practice. It needs a very deep self-reflection, a brave self-reflection, but it's the wake-up call. So when I feel that I am feeling that like to fix other people as a reformer, if I see that in myself, that's a wake-up call for me to see, okay, this is not the right path. This is not a healthy pattern. What can I do to grow? What is the fear behind it? How do I not fulfill the desire? And I'm doing this pattern. The pattern that can show up as a helper, the wake-up call is if I'm making other people need me in order, like I help them, but the intention is I want them to need me. And we have to go deep to see that. Because I'm not helping them because I want to help them. I'm helping them because I want to be loved. Do you see how the desire, the fear, the childhood messages can all play together? The achiever, if we are just living for the status, am I buying that luxury car or the bigger house just because I want to show up, that I have a status in the society with money? And it's not just money. It can represent itself in so many different ways, but in any layer of the society, am I living for the status and hiding myself beyond that persona, or am I being myself and actually offering what I have to the society authentically? The individualist, of course, the wake-up call is if we just have, if we take things personally all the time, if we have a strong sensation of people are doing bad things to us, if it's always everybody else, this is a wake-up call that like, can I see beyond that? What is happening in me? What can I grow? How can I grow? What's the fear? What's the wound behind it that I can address? The investigator, they can become very like idealists. Like the wake-up call is if I'm not in touch with the reality of life. There are phases of our life that we really like to read a lot of philosophy books, maybe for some of us, but if it's like we are very in touch, we are very out of touch with the reality of our life, if we don't even see people around us, if we are just constantly, like if the person is saying, oh, what are you talking about? You are depressed. People in China don't have food to eat. That's a wake-up call for me who's saying it. Because if I'm degrading someone's depression and bringing guilty feeling to the person to compare herself to another person, which I don't know about their situation, that's me being out of touch with reality. So that's the wake-up call when, as an investigator, I can start working on myself and my growth. And again, what is the fear behind it? Why am I doing this? Being curious about it. The loyalist is the wake-up call for the loyalist is when we are in codependent relationships, when we are too dependent on others to do things for us. And that's when we can actually go back to that self-reflection to see why do we do that? Why do we underestimate our own capabilities? And why do we want to be too dependent on other people or live in a codependency style of life? The enthusiast is the wake-up call can be actually too independent, that like I don't want to have any support from anybody. I can do it all myself. And then also the wake-up call could be like feeling always missing out. That even though if I have a jam-packed schedule for the rest of the week, I still feel that like, oh, what if I could do this too? Just too many things, too many wants, feeling of missing out. The challenger, the wake-up call is if we if we are in a lot of conflict and struggles with others in order to maintain our own setting. Now, it also depends on the environment. Maybe people are actually crossing your boundaries, but as a wake-up call, if you feel you are constantly either in your head or in reality fighting with others, if there is not enough security for me to show my vulnerability, I'm putting the face and I'm like showing and expressing that through anger towards others. For the challenger, the wake-up call can be, for the peacemaker, the wake-up call can be if we are not talking about our opinions a lot, if we constantly remove ourselves from any conflict, if we are compromising too much, if you have desire to accommodate all the time to make sure that everything is good, there is no conflict, there is no one bothered, there is no one sad, there is no one mad. That's a wake-up call that like, no, it doesn't have to be like that because it makes us burdened. Let me see, we have 2 comments. Oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you, that you had to leave. What time is it? It's 3:10 and I think we have 2 more slides. So I'll try to talk a little less so we can get to Q&A, because just talking too much, it can be overwhelming for everybody. I think we basically talked about this, but the way that each type in an unhealthy way can manipulate other types is like if I'm operating from the unhealthy reformer, I constantly want to fix other people. If I'm operating from unhealthy helper, I want to make sure that people need me. And I come and go and help them so they love me. I want to buy their love. If I'm an achiever, I put the face, I go behind that false persona, and I want to charm everybody. So basically, it's kind of like a charming and manipulation. If I, as an individualist, like I talked about it, I can be, if I'm operating from unhealthy, manipulating others is by emotional blackmail. You are making me feel like this and that, and then the person wants to defend themselves, and they're like, see, it's not even about me anymore, it's about you. So it's like there is no conversation here. There is so much defending and so much powerful kind of like unpleasant feelings around. The investigator, they can manipulate others with detach themselves emotionally. Like I said, they can become out of touch with the reality, and if they live around us, they won't even see the reality of me. But they can tell me like, why are you depressed? Why don't you think about people who are hungry in the other part of the world? The loyalist can manipulate others by constantly testing their commitment. And I think we've all probably done it, and we've all been tested by others that like, oh, I just wanted to see if you still care. How many of those Facebook messages have we seen? If you care about me, say something or I will remove you. And I'm like, sure, fine, remove me. But that's how we unhealthily treat each other. And I hope I'm not very blunt about it. It might come across as a little blunt, but because if we see each other with compassion, if we see each other differences, then we don't constantly shame or manipulate others. So it's important to see when we do it, and it's important when others are doing it to us. And the challenger, of course, can be controlling, can be harsh, they can be demanding. So they want to dominate you, or we want to dominate others as an unhealthy challenger. And the peacemaker can say, sure, whatever you say, constantly. Like you get to the point that like, do you have any opinion? Can you please give me an opinion? Because at the end of the day, when they constantly say, sure, whatever you say, yeah, I agree, then the other person who is making the decision has so much responsibility to make the decision. So that's another way that like is not good to treat other people, to constantly, yes, sure, of course, I agree. No, I'm perfectly fine. No, I'm good. While we actually have something to say. So those are the way that others can manipulate us, or we can manipulate them. Now, as much as I was like, those can be practices. The wake-up calls can be like things that we can think about it, the wound behind it, the fear behind it, and how we can grow out of it. This is also a way of looking at how to be mindful, to practice our life from the healthy way, from the healthy part of the spectrum whenever we can. And whenever we can't, we can be mindful of how can we get ourselves out of it. We don't want to stay there. We don't want to be frozen in an unhealthy part. When we are mindful of it, we want to grab ourselves any support that we can, and come out of the unhealthy way. So that's what we want to learn. And then grow, right? We just don't want to come out of the unhealthy way. We want to grow. We want to have the higher purpose of living our life. Basically, a reformer, based on the desires that a reformer has, want to be a wise person, want to be a discerning personality. The helper wants to become an unconditional helper and lover, not to help to have an agenda behind it, but to, and they are capable of it. You know, we are all capable of this. When we help ourselves to grow, when we empower ourselves, we are capable of all of this. The achiever wants to be an achiever and also be a symbol of achieving. So it inspires others to be actually like inspiring and a role model. The investigator, the individualist, they want to be themselves, authentic themselves, in order to create, to bring that authenticity out with that capability that they have. The investigator, they can create new patterns by that imagination that they have. And they can create beautiful new patterns out of the current patterns and data that they by their investigating ability that they have, they can integrate a lot of new things together. The loyalist can create trust and can bring trust to the society, to the community, to the group that they are together. The enthusiast can bring a lot of joy. We want to be happy. We all need to be happy. And the one that has more capability of bringing happiness can, impact other people in the dynamic too. The challenger can stand up for others. The challenger can empower others with that life force that they have. And the peacemaker can definitely practice to assert themselves, but also with that compassion that they have for peacemaking, they can become real good peacemakers in a society to allow other people to reframe the conflict and to see themselves as part of the conflict. And I want to end this by, I started that we have everything here. And yes, we have some of them like dominant compared to the other traits. We want to understand ourselves. We want to learn ourselves and our behavior, but look at it as a whole in a group, that if we had a group that each one of us had one of these dominant behaviors, how beautiful that group could become to create life. So we can see the strength of others, and if it expresses itself as unhealthy, we can see behind the face value of what the fear could be for that person, and how can we empower each other. We don't want to fix each other. We want to empower each other. I want to end it here. This is my information. And like I said, Adrienne is always very kind. She shares the slides with everyone. I do see we have one.
Shabnam, do you want me to cut it off now?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that.
Thank you.